Hi, this is Kristen Oya, and this is Biology 231, Human Anatomy and Physiology. We are going to start off talking about Section 1.1 in the free online textbook. And in order to find the outline that's shown on the screen, if you go to the Canvas Biology 231 homepage, at the very top it says scroll down to view all content, and it's highlighted yellow. There are some big bold blue letters. The third line of blue letters down says student outlines. And if you want to take notes on this outline, you could go ahead and click on the first link that says Chapter 1 Student Outline. This is totally optional, but it can make things a little bit faster if you just take notes on that outline. So section 1.1 basically talks about the relationship between form or structure, also known as anatomy, and function, also known as physiology. And so the complementarity of structure and function is just the relationship showing that there's a close relationship between anatomy and physiology. If you change the structure of an object, it will affect the function of the object. And so anatomy refers to a science that studies the form or the structure and composition of the body structure. Now, gross anatomy, gross just refers to macroscopic anatomy, or something that you can see with the naked eye. It's a study of the larger structures of the body that you can see without a microscope. We'll talk about homeostasis later, but microscopic anatomy, as you can imagine, refers to a study of small structures of the body that require magnification using a microscope. And so in this image on the left, you can see a brain. That's gross anatomy. We can see it with the naked eye. And on the right, cells, neuron cells, you would need a microscope to see, so that would be microscopic anatomy on the right. Now, regional anatomy refers to a study of the structures that contribute to specific body regions. So, for example, we could study just the head and the neck. If we studied just the head, it would be anatomy of the head. That would be regional anatomy. And then we could move on to, say, the neck. And that would be regional anatomy. Systemic anatomy is the study of structures that contribute to specific body systems or organ systems, like the cardiovascular system or the lymphatic system. And this textbook that we're using uses that approach. Pretty much each chapter focuses on a different organ system. So we study the systemic anatomy and systemic physiology. Or you could say we study A&P, anatomy and physiology, from a systemic perspective. Now, physiology is just the function. It's a science that studies the chemistry, biochemistry, and physics of the body's functions. So in order to do well, it's good to have a little bit of a background in other sciences, like biochemistry, for example. That's why you touched on chemistry in the prerequisite course, Biology 112, Cell Biology for Health Occupations. Now, we can divide physiology, or the study of the body function, in at least 3 ways. For example, we could subdivide physiology according to the type of organism being studied. Well, in our case, we're studying human physiology, not plant physiology, but human physiology. We could also subdivide physiology according to the organizational level studied. We can study molecular physiology or cellular physiology or tissue physiology or organ physiology. And thirdly, we could study physiology according to the systemic function. For example, if we're studying the function of the nervous system, we would be studying neurophysiology. If we're studying the function of the respiratory system, we would be studying respiratory physiology. And this is the approach we're going to use: systemic anatomy and systemic physiology. Now, there are at least 3 different things that make something alive. If there's an organism that displays autopoiesis, cell theory, and metabolism, we can consider it alive. Autopoiesis is the ability of an organism to make itself or to maintain itself. Humans make humans, and humans also maintain themselves throughout life. Cell theory. Cell theory states that an independent structure, like a human, comprised of 1 or more microscopic units called cells, is alive. So, if we're made up of 1 or more cells, we're alive. Metabolism is the 3rd something that makes us alive. Now, metabolism is the sum total of all the physical and chemical reactions in the body. And pretty soon, in a moment, we're going to talk about the characteristics of life. Each characteristic of life is related to metabolism, or all the chemical reactions in our body. You can divide metabolism into 2 different types of metabolism. We have both anabolic reactions and catabolic reactions, both of which are part of metabolism. An anabolic reaction is when we take simple, small building blocks and we put energy into the reaction and we end up building something that is more complex and larger. Anabolic reactions consume energy. Now, a catabolic reaction, on the other hand, it breaks materials down into simpler, smaller pieces, and it releases energy. So it would be moving in the opposite direction. And it would take something large and complex and break it down into smaller, simpler pieces, and it would release energy. And that's what we do when we eat food. We eat lasagna, and we break down the lasagna into different, smaller, simpler molecules. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. Remember, metabolism includes both. Okay, so there are about 10 characteristics of life. In other words, things that are alive display these characteristics. One of them is responsiveness. As humans, we have the ability to sense and monitor and respond to changes outside our body and changes inside our body. That's responsiveness. An example of responding to something outside your body is if you touch a hot stove, you immediately